Hey, welcome back to MUFC versus everybody. I'm Sean, and I could just charge everybody maybe my hourly rate right now because it seems like we're all just going to be doing some therapy for the next few minutes. So I will prorate it. I won't charge you the full rate since we're not doing the full hour. But right now, I feel like we're all in our feelings, and we could all use a little psychological therapeutic intervention. So you can, I take cash, I take check, and I do not take Bitcoin. But right now, I think we all just need to take a break for a second, count to 10, maybe do some deep breathing exercises because if you don't, this United side will probably kill you in one way or the other this season. So obviously, United just drew 2-2 with Bournemouth away at Bournemouth, and there's a lot of mixed feelings. But we're gonna dive in. So for now, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and check us out at MUFC versus everybody on Twitter. And let's kick it off. I mean, what do you say about a performance like that? I mean, it's one of those days where nothing really stood out as extremely noticeably horrible, right? There definitely wasn't anything that stood out as being extremely good, like not a whole lot of positives. It was just so meh all over the place between the tactics, between the player performances. It's just, there's not really any single player you could point a finger at. There's not really a manager you could point a finger. There's not enough fingers to point right now with everything that kind of went wrong today. Bournemouth just wanted it more. They're at home, so a little bit that makes sense. But at the same time, no disrespect to Bournemouth, but this is a side that United should be beating. But contextually speaking, context is key. Like I always say, it's almost not even surprising that we didn't manage to come away with 3 points, given just the way we've been playing. The players just haven't really been turning up. Ten Hag just doesn't seem to be able, whether that's a right now thing, maybe, or whether it's an overall thing. He just doesn't seem to be able to help his players dig that little bit deeper, push that extra mile, just find that little extra whatever it is internally or collectively as a squad to rise to these occasions. I mean, this is an away match against Bournemouth in the league, and we drew 2-2. I mean, what do you do with that? How do you analyze that? I wish there was something more tactical, something more intelligent that I could say, but I just don't know what to say. So it's hard to pick anyone out. Like I said, obviously Willie Camboala did not have his best match, and that's okay. No one's pointing the finger at Willie. No one's, putting all the blame on him. He's a young kid. This is his second start. He's had to come in, amidst injuries, playing alongside Harry Maguire, who hasn't really been playing either. So you have two center backs who, there's an 11, 12-year difference between the two of them. Neither of them have really played a whole lot. Neither of them have really played with each other a whole lot, as a partnership. And so there's a lot going against you in that situation for both of them. Got spun, obviously, and then just looked a little shaky after that. You could tell as soon as he made that mistake for that first one, he was struggling to shake it off a little bit, and that's normal when you're young. It's always hard, as a keeper and as defenders. You are the last line of defense in many ways, and so people will tend to look at you, right? There's a little bit of recency bias there, but at the same time, everybody else ahead of you on your team, your midfield, your attackers, all of those teammates had to also make mistakes for the situation that you found yourself in. And Ten Hag, making mistakes as well. So, obviously it was Camboala's fault, but I can't be too harsh on a teenager for something like that. I mean, we're doing our part to help Solanke push for a golden boot this season. I mean, it's ridiculous. What is he, 16, 17 goals in the league now, Solanke? Was he third or fourth top goal scorer in Premier League this season? And a lot of that is down to us. We gifted them 3 goals, obviously, at home last time out. Solanke had 1, and then obviously we gave him this one today, too. And it's just, what can you do? Bournemouth wanted it more. They fought us a little more. Obviously, we had more possession. We just couldn't do anything with it. Like if you take a look at the stats here, I mean, they had 11 interceptions. We only had 5. So we just, again, it's the story of the season, especially recently. We can't string 2 passes together to make a third right now. Nobody was able to do anything. Um, and it wasn't even an issue of like when Bournemouth would attack, our midfield is non-existent. It got that way a little later on. It's just we couldn't do anything with the ball. We were just making really bad passes and very not Ten Hag like passes. A lot of hopeful balls over the top, a lot of just risky passes that just when we needed to keep the ball on the ground and try to be a little more careful and try to play smart and play ourselves out of trouble. I do think Onana could have done a little bit more for that first one, simply because it was a weak shot and B, it was from outside of the box. It wasn't like a screamer. It wasn't like he got all of his laces through it or anything. It was just he almost scuffed it a little bit. If you saw, he kind of topped it, Solanke, and it just kind of dribbled in. It went under Onana's arm, and so again, I feel like we're not singling out any single one player for that goal, but at the same time, Onana, I think just the muscle that he's carrying prevents him from getting down to those kind of low shots as quickly as he really needs to. And it was kind of a perfect storm of mistakes and just switching off a little bit, and didn't look good. We didn't really look good after their opener, and you never really had confidence that we were going to get something out of this. Obviously, Bruno pulled a couple back, and let's chat about Bruno for a second, because Bruno he's so frustrating, but at the same time, he'll come up with these goals. And I was at Loaded Dice Brewery in Troy. Big up Loaded Dice, big up Detroit Red Devils. Always a pleasure hanging out with that group and just talking about United, talking footy, talking everything. And then, on occasion, enjoying a win. But big up Loaded Dice, big up to Jeff for always opening up early for the group and just making some good brews. So always a pleasure to give them a shout out. So I'm sitting at the pub watching this thing, and I'm talking to some guys next to me, like, is Bruno playing? I had to open up my phone and look to see if Bruno was playing. I don't think I saw that I noticed that he was even on the pitch until about 25, 30 minutes in, when we had like a free kick or something, and I was like, oh, he's playing. He just weren't getting on the ball, and it was a problem in midfield, especially. Yeah, Bruno was given man of the match. Obviously, he scored 2 goals, but it's like Bruno can ghost for 95% of the match and then come up with a goal like that or something, and all is forgiven. And yes, goals are important, and we needed those goals, and he's one of the few people in the squad who can do that. But at the same time, we need more for the rest of the match. It's yes, a goal can win you a game or salvage a point, but at the same time, we need 90-minute players. I said it on my other video, my match reaction recently. We don't have none of these players aren't 90-minute players. We're not a 90-minute team. We show up in moments, whether that's just here and there individual moments of brilliance. We show up maybe in 10-minute patches at the beginning of the match. Sometimes we start strong, or maybe at the end of the match when we're chasing, when we're down a goal and we're kind of chasing the game. But sometimes we can dig deep a little bit. We don't have it in us for 90 minutes, whether that's a fitness thing. We know we don't have a fitness coach. We know we've had injuries. There's talk about training. I don't buy it. If you remember when Ollie was here, he did say, like, players can't handle the training. So maybe that's just the player fitness. Maybe they're just not trying as hard. I don't know. Maybe it's a mentality thing. Maybe the players are switched off. When you have a mentality that comes from the top, from the ownership, from just history, from this kind of collective stigma that top 4 is the goal for a lot of these clubs, sometimes when that goal is out of reach, mathematically or just realistically even, sometimes the players will switch off. We've seen it from these United players for years, under Mourinho, under Ollie. Like, when we had the chance to really finish strong and really maybe lock in a solid finish at the end of the league season, the players just switch off. Now, I don't know what to do about that. I'm a mental health professional, and I wish I had a better, explanation or a better piece of advice to give, but you don't. I don't have that because it is impossible to control someone else's mind. It's in like you can't shove the end of a controller into someone's ear and start controlling them on the pitch and make them do what you want. It's not possible because it's like that analogy I gave you the day. I heard someone on another fan channel say, it's a poor craftsman who blames his tools, but the players aren't tools; they're human beings. They're going to switch off. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to have trouble intrinsically motivating themselves in these moments to dig deep and push a little harder. Not only push themselves, but push each other. Sometimes you got to drag your teammates. Sometimes you got to push your teammates. Sometimes you're the one who needs that yourself, and there's not enough of that in the squad. Not at any single point in this match that I see players that look like they were up for it. Casemiro just zero energy. His body language was so poor, and Garnacho tired, clearly tired. He was hooked off later on in the second half because he is just not it, and it's frustrating because while the whole time that left side for Bournemouth when they were attacking that ball was on the whole match, right? Kirkis and I think it was Sinistera were up over and over again. We couldn't Dallo was having trouble. They were kind of double teaming him. But what that meant is when we were able to maybe stop that or maybe get the ball, we had Garnacho wide open, and we were able to get him a couple times. Nobody else was getting up there. We were too busy defending. Højlund would get the ball isolated. Rashford get the ball isolated. Garnacho get the ball isolated. No one is with him. There was a point in the second half where Højlund made a really good run and maybe was holding the ball up in Bournemouth's box. And he in the TV screen will zoom out and you can see kind of the whole half at a time. No other white jerseys in that half with him. The players just weren't pushing themselves. They weren't running. They weren't following up with the play. I don't know if they're just tired or if they're just mentally just checked out or what. But I mean, I'm starting to repeat myself a little bit in some ways, but it's frustrating. It's super frustrating because they're capable of more. They know it. We know it. Ten Hag knows it. But there's just this mental hump that they just are unwilling to push themselves over. And they don't care, if that's the case, because it's another manager gone. They'll still get paid. They'll still be here next season. At this rate, like I said in the other video, we won't last long if we ever did qualify for Champions League this season. We wouldn't last long in the Europa League. I doubt we would last long in the Conference League. You almost wonder if maybe a season out of Europe altogether where we can really regroup, really assess what's going on without the added headache of an extra match, without the added pressure of that. I think that maybe that is what this squad needs. That's not what I want. Obviously, you want to compete in Champions League. It's just, do you want to get embarrassed again? Do you want to get knocked out again by Copenhagen and Galatasaray? Do you really want to give away those kind of negative records like we've been doing all season? I mean, you might need to do that, and it's just might need to take. It's like a boxer, sometimes you do need to take a hit in order to get yourself in a good position to get a hit off, and sometimes that's what we need to do. I don't want it. Obviously, I want us to push. I want us to win games. I want us to be in Champions League. It's just realistically, it just doesn't look on. And realistically, I don't know if it would be the best thing for us next season. And so it's anyone's guess what's going to happen. Obviously, Tottenham got smashed by Newcastle in a big match for them earlier. That puts Newcastle ahead of us, though, now. Newcastle's sitting sixth. And they are tied on points with us, but they have a way better goal differential. And then Tottenham is still 10 points ahead of them. So you'd have a hard time thinking that we're going to make up 10 points between now and the end of the season. And also Tottenham are going to drop 10 points. But so we're in seventh, but I'm looking over my shoulder right now. What do they say in football? You hear in footsteps. I'm hearing West Ham, who are 2 points behind us right now, and Chelsea, who are only 6 points behind us, and then Brighton and Wolves are not that far behind us. So, between 6th and 11th and 12th place right now, it's anyone's guess what that's going to look like. That middle kind of third of the table. We could if we don't shape up, we could very easily drop in the bottom half of the table before the end of the season. And then Chelsea, the team we've been bantering all season for their chaotic kind of just shambolic decline, they could easily overtake us. And so European football is definitely out of the picture, I think. Top 10 is not unrealistic to think we might miss out on. So we really need to figure out a way to get it together. I don't know what to do with the tactical side of things. Obviously, the injuries are hurting us. I mean, we don't really have a choice right now with the players we have. You know, you look at the bench and it's just a dip in quality, players who are injured and they're not available, or players who are just coming back from injury. I probably would have put, I would have started Mount, and I definitely would have brought him on earlier for Mainu, simply because I just think Mainu's been playing a lot of football and he needs a break. I don't think he looks tired. I just think it's a lot for him to take on. And Mount has looked decent when he's come on. And like I said in my last video in the preview of this match, by the time we bring Mount on, I worried that it would be too late, and it was. It didn't really do a whole lot. And it's too bad, you know, because we bought him. He's back. He's looked good against Chelsea. Looks good against Liverpool. Like, we need to just do it. We don't have a choice. If the players can't handle, I think, another 6 matches right now, then fitness is even worse than we thought. Like, there's at a certain point you have to be able to just push through the pain barrier a little bit. You're going to have to be able to dig deep, and you're going to have to be able to motivate yourself and show a little bit of resilience, because the team needs it. The fans need it. Ten Hag needs it. I mean, we could talk about Ten Hag for a little bit. I mean, what can you say about this result that, you know, was on him? I mean, I kind of touched upon my preference for team selection, and that's something that, you know, people have criticized him for since he started, is team selection. I think the only thing I can think of is again, the tactics, especially playing out from the back. Still trying to walk it out from the back, which we can't do with Maguire. We just can't. Onana, the opportunity was there, like I said, with Bournemouth kind of overloading players in our final third. There was an opportunity to hit him on the break, and we just couldn't do it. And we missed out on chances to capitalize on that space in behind. Rashford didn't look too interested, so, and whether that's because he's still kind of coming back from a knock or whatever, I mean, if you're on the pitch, you're starting. If you say I can do it, then, you know, you're taking that responsibility. And I didn't see enough from Rashford for sure tonight, and that's a little too bad. Like I said, Bruno was a bit of a ghost in that first half. Casemiro's done. I mean, I don't have a personal problem with Cass. He's just done. Legs are gone. 90 minutes, he doesn't have it in him anymore, and he just doesn't look interested. He looks like he's already thinking about sandy beaches in Saudi League, and I mean, it is what it is. You know, if that's the case, hopefully we can get a decent fee for him. I don't plan on that, because we seem to be the only club who doesn't when the Saudi League comes calling. Dalot had not a good night at all. He just looked, didn't know whether he needed to go forward or get back, and it was just him just kind of getting chalk on his boots all night, just defending and getting forward, and he did not probably his worst game I've seen in a long time from Dalot, which is unfortunate because he has been such a standout player this season. He's come on leaps and bounds as far as development is concerned over this season, and he's looked like our player of the season. And tonight, not at all, not anywhere close, not even half as good as what he's been. But it is what it is. You're allowed a bad match. It's just the timing, right? This is not a time when we needed that. We needed the same Dalot we've been seeing all season, and so it is what it is. Wan-Bissaka, what can you say about Wan-Bissaka? I mean, it's hard to get a read on him. Like, it's not like Martial where everyone's like, he's got bad body language. He just, it's like a sphinx. It's just zero expression on Wan-Bissaka. He never looks like upset. It doesn't even look like he just cares. Not in like a bad way, but just like doesn't look like anything really affects him on the pitch. And so, what can you do about Wan-Bissaka? He's a right back, a defensive right back playing left back right now because we don't have left backs. And so, again, it's hard to judge him too harshly. But again, it just wasn't his best performance. Like I said, Manu just probably one match too many, kind of in a row for Copy. Casemiro's down. Bruno ghosted. Obviously, a good goal. He had a really good strike later on too that came off the crossbar. That was a really good strike. You know, the dip on that had the keeper beat. It's just unfortunate that it was just like a couple inches a little too high. And that took his penalty. It was good to see him kind of change up the penalty kick a little bit and not do his little run up and hop. Put it away. Rashford goes. Garnacho tired. Højlund isolated. Bless him. He works hard. He fights and fights. It's just he's still young and he's playing against Premier League defenders who are much older than he is, and so he's just when he's isolated, when he doesn't have help, when there's no one there, and especially when he's double marked, it's what can you expect from him? I think that as he gets older, he'll get a little bit better when it comes to where to take his first touch. There were a couple opportunities tonight where he would get the ball and his first touch, he would take it wide instead of maybe turning in and running across the defender and either forcing the defender to make a foul or making space for himself. And those are the kind of things that he'll get better at as he gets older. Again, it's just that timing thing. Like we've seen him do that before, and tonight it just wasn't happening. And so it's whether that's he's still coming back, whether that's again the system that's leaving him isolated or his teammates who are leaving him isolated and not giving an option. It was kind of a perfect storm of just little things that just weren't lining up tonight. Nothing was aligning. So, what else can I say? The last point, I mean, I think what frustrated me most, so I tell people a lot, I'll tell my wife this all the time. It's not, I can handle a loss, I can handle drop points. What I can't handle is bad performances. Players who just don't look like they're trying, who are making stupid mistakes, and who aren't taking care of the ball in that last play of the game. So we're super, super lucky. Like, I don't know what to have thought had that penalty actually been given and not been brought back for a free kick. Like, how many penalties have we given away from these kind of positions? Like that, to see that, it was just like, really? How many penalties are we going to concede? To see that happen, it was good that it wasn't given, because I think that the entire fan base almost, and even the players I feel like that almost would have been like too much. That almost would have been one bit of bad luck too many for us to take. And I feel like, whether people admit it or not, I feel like if that penalty had been given and we had lost that match because of a late penalty, that we would have almost all just completely given up. I feel like a lot of the fan base would have stopped watching for the rest of the season. Maybe would have tuned in for the FA Cup, but thankfully it wasn't given. But where I was going with what happened after the penalty is we had an opportunity. We got the ball into their final third. Yes, Bournemouth dropped deep and they put all their men behind the ball. Nobody wanted to take responsibility. Everybody wants to look for someone else to do it. Everyone wants someone else to do something rather than just doing your job and putting the ball in the area. We're passing around in the final third in a horseshoe passing pattern, and we pass it all the way back to inside of our own half for Bruno basically just to hoof it. And yeah, cool, he's the one who takes responsibility, but what is that going to do? He's putting this backspin lob into the box when we needed some whipped crosses in from wide areas, when we had opportunities. Mount got the ball high in the left side of the pitch, just outside their box, had an opportunity. He had beaten his defender and made space for himself inside of the pitch. All you had to do was put a ball in the box. It's all you had to do. And we just don't do it. We're passing it. Time's running out. And that's the kind of stuff that bugs me, is there's zero composure, zero wisdom and discernment, and just zero match IQ in those kind of moments to just realize what the situation is and take advantage of it. And we blow an opportunity late in the match. Yes, you're probably thinking like the odds on us doing something are not good, but you're never gonna make a chance or score a goal if you don't make the chance. It's just like I say all the time, like if you never ask a question, the answer is always no. You're never going to know if you would have gotten something out of that situation if you never put a ball in the box. So we made about 6-7 passes, ended up going all the way back to our half, and then put one ball in the box when we could have had repeated chances. Could have put a ball in, got a deflection. Could have ball in, could have pinballed around. Could have ball in, could have gotten, anything could have happened, but we just don't do. We could have got a corner. nothing happens. And I know, like, they're probably thinking if I put this too high or too low, like the keeper could get it or it could just get cleared or whatever. But it's in that situation, you have to do something. And what we did was just, it was cowardly, it was hesitant, it was back foot, and it just, again, like I said in my last video, no one takes responsibility, no one takes initiative, no one says, you know what, something's got to happen and it needs to be done. I'm going to do it. And we have too many players that think like that in these kind of situations, and we can't afford to carry those kind of players in the squad. So disappointing result. Thankfully, Bournemouth didn't do the double, but a point doesn't help us. Like I said, I just showed you the table. We're seventh, tied in points with Newcastle. We're only a couple points ahead of West Ham, and it's just not. We could be eighth tomorrow. Like we could be eighth place tomorrow, below West Ham, with Chelsea breathing down our necks. And you need to think about that. These players need to think about that. Ten Hag needs to think about that, because he needs to figure out a way to manage his way out of this situation. Because right now, every match is potentially make or break for him. Yes, we have a chance in the FA Cup, but do you think we have a good chance against Coventry? Do you think we have a good chance against Chelsea or City if we make it to a final? Nope, I don't think so. I think Coventry could definitely upset us on the weekend. Ten Hag needs to figure it out. I know his hands are tied, right, with injuries. And obviously, his hands are tied with just the mentality and the ability of some of these players, but they have a week to figure this out. The captain needs to come in here and be a voice in the dressing room. He needs to be a leader. These players who are experienced players need to step up and be an example of the standards that we're trying to establish in the squad. We saw in the Liverpool game, the youngsters were the standard setters. They were the markers. When you've got Champions League winners, World Cup winners, players who are internationals who are being paid £300 a week to do what? To give up, instead of pressing somebody, to give up when they lose the ball and fail to track back to try to contribute and win the ball back. Like, these are the kind of players at Manchester United right now who are wearing this shirt right now. These are the kind of players. See, I'll fly there right now and play in this shirt. Like, I'll at least try. I'll at least try harder than a few of these players on the pitch. Obviously, I'm not going to do very well, but I'll try. I will run my socks off for this club more than a couple of these other players. I'm not going to name names. I think you guys know who I'm talking about. So we've got a match coming up this weekend, FA Cup. I'll do a preview a little later on this week, but we'll see how it goes. Coventry obviously they don't have the same players they had last year. Obviously, they're without Gyökeres, who is just lighting it up in Portugal right now. But at the same time, if you did a combined 11 of Coventry based on form and performances this season alone, I think people would be not surprised at the disparity between Coventry players and United players in that starting 11. Ten Hag's got his work cut out for him. It's going to be interesting to see, what happens this summer. I don't know how I feel about him right now. It's hard to defend him with the performances. Obviously, it's hard to point the finger at him, but again, it's hard to defend him because at the end of the day, he's the manager. Ineos will sure be looking at this result, but they'll be looking at the performance. They'll be looking at his decision making in the match, and they'll be watching closely at every match between now and the end of the season. And it could go either way right now with what happens. I would find it difficult to believe that with our limited funds and with all the changes that they need to make already, and the players we need, that they're going to spend however much it takes to sack him. They've got to spend money to get Ashworth, Wilcox. They've got to get players. They've got all sorts of stuff coming up, and they want to do a stadium. Every penny's going to count, so we'll see. But again, kind of like I said before, the players pick the team. Ten Hag pretty much is going to pick his fate. And if you can't get the senior players to do it, you need to just start promoting the youngsters. We've seen the youngsters show up and perform. They've outshone the first teamers. Casemiro can sit down. I'm sure we've got a youngster who can play that position. Rashford can sit down. I'm sure we have a youngster. Wan-Bissaka, Dalot can take a break. We can play Amas. We can play any of these guys. We had, Wheatley on the pitch today. Put him on. What's going to go wrong? And I know people are going to say, oh, you don't want to put a youngster on in that situation. Like, it's not about putting pressure on them. No one's going to blame them. No one's going to blame them. But if they're going to work harder than the players that are on the pitch, than the starting 11 who have shown this exact failure to perform season in, season out, then, what else can you do? I don't like what I'm seeing. I know you don't like what you're seeing, and we demand better from everybody, from top down, owners, CEOs, boards, Ten Hag, and the players. It's up to them to respond. It's up to them to show up, and it's up to them to get some results. We need points on the board if we want any hope of any semblance of European football. I mean, everybody probably needs to clear out their Thursdays, but I mean, honestly, I wouldn't worry about it. So, in any case, we'll be back a little later on with preview of the FA Cup semifinal, and I'll see you then. Thanks for stopping by. As always, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. Check us out on MUFC versus everybody, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.